This is a Relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jesperson.
My, how things change, and things change quickly. What was it, 24 hours ago we were here counting down Donald Trump's tariffs on Canada, crippling tariffs, 25% on most everything, 10% on oil and gas, that experts are saying could bring the Canadian economy to its knees. Business owners were concerned, employees were concerned, investors unsure of what all of this would mean. Here we are 24 hours later, and the president pressing pause first on tariffs on Mexico. That story broke as we were talking to our expert voices on our most recent episode. And then later in the day, as you no doubt know by now, Trump pausing tariffs on Canada after the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, held 2 phone calls with POTUS through the day, reportedly promising about $1.3 billion in increased investment in Canadian border security, more choppers, more personnel. It's what Trump says he was looking for, but what's really going on? You look at international reporting. How about this headline from MSNBC this morning? Trump folds under pressure, pauses tariffs on Mexico and Canada. That's one narrative. Another narrative from the president's supporters is that Donald Trump got exactly what he was looking for. Mexico's sending 10,000 troops to their shared border. Donald Trump calling this a win. At the end of the day, what does it mean for you? What does it mean for your grocery shopping? What does it mean for your variable rate mortgage? What does it mean for the people that you employ in the business that you're running, or longer term, your family's wealth management strategy? We're going to go there today. We're going to get inside the details and hopefully help you plot out a course for the next month while the tariffs are paused, or maybe moving forward over the next 4 years as Donald Trump occupies the Oval Office. We'll be looking to our live chat powered by Park Power to see what real talkers are saying. I want to get into our email inbox. Michael is not happy at all with our guest lineup yesterday, and we always appreciate those of you that are holding our feet to the fire. So, Michael, we're going to lead with your email in just a quick second. But first, I want to let you know that Alberta's top online real estate school is making this episode possible. That's Relo, online at relo.ca. That's where better real estate training starts. Relo is real estate learning online for the bold and ambitious. And wherever you're at in your career, they can help you find the next level. Maybe 2025 is the year that you get out of that cubicle for good. You know that your boss right now is not giving you a raise, and your friends working in real estate, you're looking at that unlimited earning potential, and you're going, I think this might be a nice fit. Why not check out Relo online, learn more about what to expect with their in-depth webinars, their exam prep resources. They've got weekly career tips, business ideas, and ongoing support from their learner success team. Nobody does it better than Relo. And right now with the promo code Ryan100, that's all one word, Ryan100, you can save $100 off the Alberta commercial and residential real estate bundles. Use the promo code Ryan100 when you get set today at relo.ca. Johnny, we got an email from Michael after the show yesterday. We opened with longtime political pundit and conservative pundit Tasha Keridan, her take on Justin Trudeau and Canada's response to Trump's threatened tariffs. Then welcomed in a former longtime diplomat, Canada's former ambassador to Afghanistan, Stephen Harper's immigration minister, Chris Alexander, and then, of course, kind of just moved on the show from there. And Michael wrote in, I respect where Michael's coming from. I understand where he's coming from. To talk at RyanJesperson.com, says Jespo, I was so disappointed in your February 3rd episode. Your 2 experts, in quotes, your experts were dyed-in-the-wool conservatives. What did you think they would say to your question on their thoughts on Justin Trudeau? Oh, he was okay, but Michael says, how about talking to people who may have a different view? Oh, wait, I forgot. There are only conservatives in Alberta. That from Michael. Let me say this, Michael, and I understand when we bring a lefty on, the right-wingers hate it. When we bring on a conservative, the liberals can't stand it, and I get it. And we want to keep everybody happy. I thought yesterday that from both Tasha Keridan and Chris Alexander, pretty measured responses, pretty fair analysis of Justin Trudeau's performance.
Right?
She is. Tasha was participating in that early center-ice conservatives, which evolved into the center-ice Wise Canadians movement. Michael, I take your point, but I didn't bring people on to go up one side of Trudeau and down the other. And as a matter of fact, I don't think that's what they did. As a matter of fact, it kind of feels like most Canadians are in the boat right now, recognizing we're all in this together. What's the move that makes most sense for Canada? I thought they did a good job of holding the Prime Minister accountable. It was great to bring in an Athabasca University professor right after that with his take on maybe what this means moving forward. He was talking to us as we were figuring out what was going on with the U.S. and Mexico, a dynamic situation.
Well,
and
RH disagrees.
I just wanted to jump in. Hang
great.
on a second. RH with $50 in the super chat right out of the gates. That's one way to open the show. RH says we need to go beyond cheering for a pause on the economic war against Canada. It's time for a real discussion about deintegration and what that means. Everything from manufacturing, energy, cultural products to the military must be on the table.
Thank you,
with $50 for the beer fridge. Unbelievable. Well, the good news is in just 1 second, we've got you covered on the business angle. Doug Griffiths, CEO of the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce, is going to join us. And then we want to introduce you to the president of Road Investment Counsel. Marshall McAlister is going to join us in studio. He's keeping a keen eye on the markets. Spoiler alert, Marshall's going to tell us that the markets aren't actually as much giving us as much of a storyline as we would have thought. Or maybe the story is that the markets aren't moving in the direction that a lot of people thought they would. That's probably good news for now anyway. How long can it last? Before we get to these two and officially get started on this episode, here's what our experts had to say 24 hours ago in 60 seconds or less.
Canada's been very abusive of the United States for many years. Canada's been very tough on oil, on energy. They don't allow our farm products in, essentially. They don't allow a lot of things in, and we allow everything to come in. It's been a one-way street. If they want to play the game, I don't mind. We can play the game all they want.
We didn't ask for this, but we will not back down.
It makes my blood boil. I never thought I would live to see this. Free trade was controversial at the time in the 1980s, but it worked for both countries. It worked for all of North America. And to see that demolished at the stroke of a pen is heartbreaking and infuriating.
The impact, if not the goals of this tariff war, is to drive our dollar down to the point where Canada is a fire sale. You know, if our dollar goes as low as 50 cents, it drags on, which some economists are saying could happen. Americans could easily come in and buy up our companies, buy up our stuff, buy up our mind, buy things. I think we have to, as a country, say, guess what? We're not going to sell to you.
What power do we have? The average person, what power do you have? The power of the purse, as they say, the bottom line, your dollars, where your family is spending. Sheila says, I've canceled all travel to the States or through American airspace. Wow. Says, and I've notified American companies why. I'm purchasing Canadian-made products by Canadian-owned companies through Canadian suppliers. I'm inspired by this. You can check out our full interviews with Chris Alexander, Tasha Carradine, and then, of course, Athabasca University, Dr. Mark Crawford as well. Dr. Mark is, kind of in charge, running their political science program there at Athabasca University. 3 unique takes, and now it's a pleasure to welcome in a former Alberta cabinet minister and an entrepreneur himself right now. He's steering the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce as its CEO, Doug Griffiths. Welcome back to studio, and right out of the gates, congratulations on an absolutely incredible Chamber ball just about a week ago. Unbelievable. Packed house, about 1,100 people there in Hall D. Yeah. It was kind of the golden ticket of Edmonton's business community.
It was incredible. It was sold out, and just the new team that we have at the Chamber did an absolutely remarkable job. And, of course, you were a fantastic MC, as you always
kind of
are.
you to say. I wasn't teeing it up for a compliment, but I would say it's before I hosted that event, it was always an event I wanted to host because it's a room full of energy, it's a room full of optimism, and it's a room full of real talkers, people whose businesses and their decisions most times are governed by the bottom line. How are you wrapping your mind around the story of these tariffs? They were threatened. There's diplomacy happening behind the scenes, and then kind of in the 11th hour, Trump presses pause for at least a month.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you. I mean, I've been having 13 years of political experience, but watching politics incessantly because it's part of my passion. Trump has a tendency to declare war and then back down and declare victory, and here we go. And it's a 30-day pause. Still think the threats are on the table and very realistic, and we have to take them very seriously. But I somewhat anticipated that he would back down because this border security issue, I think is fluff. I don't think it was ever actually a real issue. I mean, 1.5% of all of their potential claims with people crossing the border came from Canada. 0.02% of the fentanyl issue comes from Canada. This wasn't really about border security. This is a little bit of him, I think, instilling some chaos, because that's the way he does business. He just creates chaos and then takes advantage of it.
Businesses don't love chaos.
No, they don't. And it's businesses in Canada that were concerned about this situation. But, I've called every counterpart I've ever met related to any chamber of commerce throughout the United States, and I did not find one that thought that this was a good plan for them either. They were really hoping they were empty threats and that he would back down, and it turns out that he did so far. But I think we still need to anticipate and be prepared for what may come 30 days from now. It might not even be 30 days. He could change his mind tomorrow again.
Oh, 100%. Johnny and I were sort of taking a look at, I guess this is maybe not necessarily 100% remarkable, about 3,200 votes on our unofficial, unscientific Twitter poll yesterday, asking our fellow Canadians if they're boycotting American companies or making more of an effort to buy Canadian. Johnny, it didn't move. It stayed between 87 and 90% the entire poll. Yeah. So really not a surprise, but the final result, 3,235 votes, 89.7, let's call it 90% of people say, yeah, they're boycotting American companies or making an effort to buy Canadian. I'm checking out our Real Talk live chat powered by Park Power right now, and this is a great point from, I think it's Tracy, who says, like, if nothing else, we learned a lot about Canadian businesses. People leveled up their knowledge and awareness over the last 24 hours. She says right now, as we speak, her business is moving $5,000 worth of business away from Starbucks to a local coffee shop / bakery. That's good news for the local shop.
It is great news. We have always, as every Chamber of Commerce does, is encourage people shop local. This really created some awareness of just how many great businesses this city has that are locally owned, and the kind of goods that they have that are Canadian based. Even my wife and I on Sunday or Saturday, we were making lunch and going through the fridge, and we both started to pull out bottles and look at them and go, is that Canadian or not? Out of curiosity. And we were surprised at how many products we are Canadian and how much that we could get and not actually need to use American products. And of course, our household has decided we're going to, whatever happens with the tariffs, we're going to continue to focus on Canadian goods and the Canadian economy.
Yeah, it's a fine line, isn't it? Right, like that you recognize now an opportunity to better support Canadian producers, to better invest in Canadian goods and services, and yet at the same time recognize the huge importance of this trade relationship. Yeah. Like I bet for a lot of Edmonton Chamber members, exporting to the United States or importing from the United States, for that matter, having that free trade relationship is probably integral.
Well, it's integral. In our last survey, 4 out of 5 businesses recognize the importance of that relationship, even if they weren't trading directly. And it's quite remarkable. And even the majority of them that don't do any bartering and trading with the United States, don't worry about the cross-border, understood the implications of how connected our economy was. And I think there's an awareness. There's this old saying I use all the time, a strength over-relied on becomes a weakness. And having the world's largest economy across the border with a very porous border that we could trade with was an advantage we had that we took advantage of. But as soon as we have somebody who comes along and threatens tariffs, we realize just how vulnerable that made us. And I think this will make Canada stronger by helping consumers, helping Canadians, and helping Canadian businesses recognize how important it is that our economy maintain some resilience, not just take advantage of the economy to the south of us.
So, I guess there's kind of like the shorter term, which is the next month or so. And I mean, we were reminded yesterday that in a stroke of a pen, everything can change. And so I guess, a prudent business leader or even at individual levels, people right now are going to be saying, well, what does the next month look like as we brace for the imposition of these tariffs? And then other people, and they may very well be right, are going to say, well, this actually isn't going to happen. But still, the wake-up call needs to be taken seriously. We need to act on the wake-up call. So why don't we talk sort of like short-term and longer-term planning in light of what's happening in this relationship, the dynamic of this Canadian-American relationship right now?
Yeah, well, I think over the short term, it is really encouraging to see businesses post, a Canadian or Alberta or even made in Edmonton sticker on their product or on the shelf, so we can help identify them. Because I think regardless of what happens 30 days from now, there's a new awareness about the importance of shopping for Canadian goods. So that I hope sticks. But in the short term right now, over the next 30 days, I think businesses also need to recognize, or consumers need to recognize, that there are a lot of small businesses in this city and cities across Canada that have shelves stocked with some American goods, and those businesses can't afford to just throw them all in the garbage. So I've seen businesses, they're starting to discount them to get them off the shelves, and supporting local small businesses also means, let's buy up those remaining goods so that they can replace those shelves with Canadian goods, helping them with the transition so that if tariffs show up in 30 days, we're already all buying Canadian goods by then. And it doesn't matter what happens 30 days from now. We need to keep that trend going, I think.
Yeah. So what do you have? Like, there's this, I mean, it's, Pierre Poilievre talked about this the other day. It seems like every expert we're talking to is acknowledging that this is also a good reminder that you want to, maybe Canada and individual businesses for that matter, want to look at expanding export markets, looking for alternative markets. I mean, there's big talk, obviously, probably the biggest talk about it is pipelines, right? Everybody's now talking about more access, increased access for Alberta energy or Canadian energy to international markets. But how does that land with chamber members, and what does that look like as well? For a lot of people, I would imagine you're going to go, listen, we've got a great relationship right now exporting to the U.S., and if I don't have to blow it all up and start fresh and look for new markets, I'd rather not. For a lot of other people, they may say, well, it's just as good for us exporting to wherever else, Germany, so we'll do that instead.
Yeah, well, that is a valid point to say, I don't want to blow it up if I don't have to, but this incident has demonstrated that somebody else south of the border could blow it up, and then we're at significant risk. So for us, we're working with the largest chambers of commerce across Canada, the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, to push our provincial counterparts and the federal government to reduce barriers to interprovincial trade, which means more pipelines to get us access to the coast. It means better infrastructure so that we can move goods back and forth. It means making sure that you can get wine from BC and that you can get wheat from Alberta into Ontario without the barriers that have constantly been in place. And we're, in a lot of cases, it's been actually easier to trade with the United States and with other Canadian provinces, and that's actually quite ridiculous and absurd. And the fact that it's occurred like that for the last 40 years, that needs to be overcome. I think that is the first step in a significant solution to help the Canadian economy become more resilient.
You're teeing up another comment from RH, who's watching us live today. Check this out, another $100 kick in on the YouTube super chat. I think picking up our beer for the next month, RH. And somebody else I noticed in the chat said, I hope it's Canadian beer. It's always Canadian beer in the Real Talk beer fridges. But RH says, I want my Canadian brothers and sisters to understand something. We're blessed to have a country with every resource needed to be industrially independent. We can feed, clothe, and house ourselves if need be. We don't have to bow to anybody. Don't sell Canada short. I love the spirit of that. You've been a provincial cabinet minister. Help us understand these barriers, these interprovincial trade barriers. I understand that they work very well for some provinces, but people also don't understand why they can't get the exact BC wine they want in Ontario, or Alberta craft brewers can't ship whatever they want to Newfoundland, or whatever the case may be. What's the big challenge here? Poilievre says he can sort it out. I figure if it was that easy, previous prime ministers would have done exactly that.
Yeah. Yeah, the challenge is we really appreciate in Canada people's independence, and every jurisdiction, every province has this unique identity, which helps make us stronger. But that there's ego involved. That no, we're going to decide how we're going to manage our alcohol, how we're going to manage our transportation logistics. I mean, and it's not productive. It's not helpful, and it loses sight of the fact that we need interprovincial trade across Canada. The very fact that there are circumstances where if you're going to haul long goods, it's easier to cross the border into Montana, go all the way across the United States and into Ontario to deliver the goods, because we have different rules on where the flags need to be on the truck, or where the license plate needs to be, or like how the only thing that's based on is this independent sense of ego from each province that says that we're going to do it our way, but it's not helping to make us more competitive. It's not making us more resilient, and it's not strengthening our economy. It's actually decreasing our productivity, decreasing our reliance on others, and our support for each other. And it is politics getting in the way of good economic progress. And I encourage any federal leader and all the provincial leaders to get together and resolve this for once and all. But we've got We've got to recognize that each province isn't a standalone island. We're part of Canada, and we are going to be stronger together.
This isn't just tariffs either, right? Like there's a dynamic now to the relationship, and again, right now we're talking about the business implications. I kind of like talking to you as well because you can roll on the political stuff too and kind of mix it all in. But whether or not the tariffs are imposed, there's still instability. There's still people that, I mean, I got this message. I don't want to say who the guy is. He works in sports and tourism, basically. That's his space. An entrepreneur. He owns the business. Sent me a text the other day. How long is this going to last? How will it end? He says, is Trump trying to destroy the world? This is crazy. He says, I'm terrified how this will impact my business. There's probably people watching right now that go, well, there still may be interruptions to supply chain. There still could be. We're going to talk to Marshall McAlister in a minute about what the Canadian dollar is going to do. There's a lot of people that maybe it's not tariffs, but it could be something else. What's the advice for businesses? I mean, typically people maybe say, keep your powder dry. People have these bits of advice. What are you telling chamber members right now?
Well, look, I will tell everybody that because this is based on chaos and creating chaos in the system. This isn't based on border issues or the trade deficit, or this is based on instilling chaos, which to me is a power grab by the president. That's why he keeps talking about us being the 51st state, which over my dead body, and I haven't talked to anybody who's really excited about something like that.
A few people in the YouTube comments. That's about it.
There's always a few out there, right? But what it's done, this stuff, even if the tariffs don't come, is put a chill on things. People are going to be reluctant to invest. They're going to be reluctant to hire new people because they're waiting to see where the shoe's going to drop. And my advice is the same advice that I still hold tight from Warren Buffett. He said, when everyone is being bold, be afraid. And when everyone's afraid, be bold. And I think this is the time for Canada and Canadian businesses to be bold. As much of a challenge as it will create, it also creates new opportunities for new markets, for interprovincial trade. You've got now a captive audience of almost 40 or 41 million Canadians who say, I'm going to buy Canadian. This is a new opportunity. If you're an entrepreneur thinking, you know what, every product that we get in a certain category comes from the United States, maybe I've got 41 million customers if we start to manufacture and produce this in Canada. This is the time for entrepreneurialism and new innovations and new investments that will help strengthen Canada, because we're focused on us now for the first time in a long time. So if anything, it's a horrible, fearful tragedy, but it also creates incredible opportunities for Canada to be innovative and for entrepreneurs to take advantage.
I reached out to somebody. They had brought their family by our Real Talk Pond Hockey Classic on Saturday out in St. Albert. It was like minus 25. And when I say minus 25, Johnny, that feels like underestimating it because the wind chill, I'm sure
it had 32.
It was like minus 32 with wind chill. It was wild. It was a wild scene, and it was so much fun and absolutely incredible. But I reached out to her. I just said, hey, they brought their kids by and, spent about a half hour there, not too long. But I just said, I wanted to let you know how much we appreciate it. And she looks me right in the eye and she goes, well, we're Canadian, right? She goes, we're proud Canadians. She's like, this is what we do. This is what Canadians do. And there was like this subtext to everything that she was saying. And it's like, there's, Donald Trump has like lit a fire under Canadians right now. And I can even feel it burning in your belly from across the table. And it's not about tariffs. It's about the 51st state stuff. It's about our short that Johnny put together that we opened the show with today. It's no mistake that we used the clip where Donald Trump says Canada has been a very bad abuser. We're not used to the Americans talking about us like that, and it's pissing us off. We're politely pissed off, but we're pissed off nonetheless.
Yeah, well, I've got texts from all sorts of American colleagues and friends that I've known over the years who have said, we're really sorry. Please don't think this is all of us. And I've texted them all back and said, we love you guys, but you don't realize you took off your winter gloves and it's a hockey fight.
Yeah,
and you don't know how to do it.
You don't know how to do it. And you're getting jerseyed.
Yeah.
Alberta Girl is not wrong in saying more pipelines. If that was a step, it would take like 10 years. Alberta Girl's right. It's not easy to get pipelines built in 6 months. But the point is there. If Canada needs to explore different markets, it will. I would suggest that none of the barriers that stood in the way of Northern Gateway or Energy East have evaporated, but who knows? Right. Brett Wilson wants to come on and talk about that. We're going to talk to Brett the next couple of weeks. Ms. B is not wrong, and I bet that this describes a good part of your chamber membership as well. Ms. B in the live chat, powered by Park Power, says the majority of Alberta businesses are small and medium-sized businesses. This is yet another reason to buy local at all levels.
Absolutely.
So now, every chamber member doesn't have 1,500 employees.
No, actually, most don't. I would say about 90% of our members have like 40 employees or less. They are the epitome of small business, which is why I want to emphasize again, we need to support them and make sure that we're helping them through the transition. So if they've got products left on the shelf they need to get rid of and can't afford to get rid of them, help them get rid of them so they can stock Canadian, and we're ready to go in 30 days if this insanity carries on. But yeah, that we are. In fact, I had a statistic that 87% of businesses in Canada are small businesses compared to the United States, which is less than 50%. It just shows that Canada is the little guy that punches above its weight, and our businesses do the same. And while they're in this hockey fight, we need to make sure that we're there to support them.
Can I throw you a hot potato? This has nothing to do with what we're here to talk about, but I just we're sitting here. I want to pick Johnny's brain on this as well. We got an email from Gabe to talk@ryanjesperson.com. Gabe says, I think what would be an interesting conversation to have at some point as part of the fundamental breaking of trust with the United States, to focus on where the defund the CBC conversation is going to go after this weekend. Gabe says foreign ownership of Post Media by American hedge fund Chatham Asset Management should come into sharper focus for Canadians. Such a good point. As we're in the wake of the foreign interference report coming out last week and the overt nature of political interference coming from Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and his ilk. I'm unsure, says Gabe, of what sort of pretzel Pierre Poilievre will turn himself into, considering his past position on the CBC, but supporters of defunding the CBC would, in a broad generalization, probably read Post Media papers if they read mainstream news, and I'm curious how they might spin all of this. That from Gabe. It's kind of like a little bit more of a Canadian sense of pride, a protectionism in a way of our information sources. Can you see the conversation around the CBC changing in light of what's happening in the States?
I see a couple of conversations changing, actually. That fundamentally, yes. The whether or not who owns the news, or whether or not it's locally produced. So the support for the CBC, I think, will naturally see go up because it's ours, and we're not being, given what I would consider a twisted spin from some American counterparts who want to dump information in here. I think it also is going to lead to a different conversation around agriculture. We've got 5 supply side industries, and most prime ministers have been almost ready to trade that away for more free trade. But right now with avian flu in the United States and the cutoff of communication, so they don't even know how bad it is, our price of eggs is stable and secure, and the supply side is safe. So I think that's a significant factor. And when we talk about the news, I mean, Ryan, you're a local guy, locally owned. I'm not ever worried about spin coming from you that represents some American interests. You represent Edmonton, Alberta, and Canadian conversations, and I really like how you bring people from both sides. That's what news should be, and I think we're going to have an appreciation for that local, real food, local, real communication and information, local businesses. I think it's going to change the entire dynamic of what we need to appreciate once again in this country and how it adds to our security and resiliency. Yeah, well said. Price of eggs up 50% in the U.S. over the last short while. Pretty interesting for us yesterday,
and that's
Johnny.
what everyone was complaining about when they were voting. They were like, I want eggs to go down. And now you've got, Donald on the air saying, well, it's very hard to bring the price of eggs down. Well, duh. I think we all knew that. People who actually follow the economy and stuff like that. Doug knew that for sure. But it's just funny to see, like, weeks after the inauguration.
Especially for people that you think would have voted for Trump in good faith under the assumption that he could bring their costs down, that he could bring their grocery costs down. And this as kind of a first move, maybe trade war averted. Who knows? We'll see. But that would not have been the impact in one of his very first orders of business. So, pretty interesting to see how he's operating early on. Yeah. He's doing what he said he was going to do. Right? I mean, is it a win? Does he get to claim the win? 10,000 Mexican troops on the border. Canada spending more than $1 billion now, increased on border security. New helicopters, promises Justin Trudeau.
He's going to claim the win, but Mexico has already had troops at the border, and I don't know how many new ones they're going to send. I don't actually know. I mean, I could see Justin Trudeau saying, you know what? Yeah, sure, we'll send more helicopters and put more guards there because, frankly, we're concerned about the guns and the fentanyl coming in from the U.S. So it'll help us stop that. I think Donald Trump likes to claim wins whether he gets them or not. It's the same with the Colombian issue, loading up the plane full of Colombians, no food, no water, handcuffed, no washrooms. landing in Colombia, the prime minister, president down there said, we're not taking them in this condition. You need to treat people humanely. They took them back. They negotiated, fine, we'll make sure that they get food and water and they're not handcuffs and they have access to a washroom. And Trump declared victory. But actually, it was the Colombian president that won that battle. He claims victory whether he wins or not.
Agree.
Yeah, for sure. And like a lot of times, if you say it enough, people believe it. Or if you say something with enough confidence, people believe it.
Yeah.
You've been in politics long enough to know that.
There's a rule of thumb in politics. You say something 7 times and people start to believe it. And
7 times?
Yeah, we've all heard.
Subscribe to our YouTube. Subscribe
to our YouTube. Subscribe.
We've all heard a rumor we think isn't true in the morning. And then by 10 o'clock, we hear it again. And then noon, we hear it again. And then after lunch, we hear it at 2 o'clock. We hear it at 5 o'clock. We hear it. Our spouse tells us when we get home. And by the time we hear it 7 times, we go, maybe there's truth to that. Even though nothing changed, no new information came forward. It's why politicians repeat themselves over and over and over. Because when we hear things 7 times, we start to think, must be true.
Does Danielle Smith get to claim a win on this one?
I don't think anybody should be claiming a win yet. It's progress. I am really excited that Premier Smith has said she's going to work with the other provincial leaders, and we're going to work on a collective strategy that I hope adds resiliency to the entire Canadian economy. And I do appreciate her efforts continuing until the 11th hour, trying to negotiate with Donald Trump. I know she's disappointed, but I don't think there is negotiating with Donald Trump. He doesn't operate on reason. He operates on creating chaos.
Yeah. JJ makes a great point in our live chat, powered by Park Power, your friendly local utilities provider. Says, now what? To put it in Canadian terms, there are several pucks on the ice now. Do we have people skating to each of them, identifying what they're about and processing a plan or response for each? I don't blame people, and JJ makes a great point, kind of going, okay, I'm just trying to stay on top of things right now, right? There doesn't seem to be one clear plan of action. I guess you got to customize it for your business.
If we're using the hockey analogy, I'd say it's a little like the movie Slapshot right now. It's fights all over the place and a bunch of chaos.
Putting on the foil.
Yeah, you're putting on the foil, exactly. We gotta hang in there, keep our heads, keep calm, cool, and collected, and recognize that no matter what, there's going to be some challenges, but there's also incredible opportunities for this city, for this province, and this country coming out of this. I hope we take advantage of this. I mean, the old saying, never waste a good crisis. We've had a shot across the bow. I think it's time we woke up and said it's time to focus on the Canadian economy and our own resiliency.
Yeah. Arsh, watching live, says, I agree. CBC must be maintained and strengthened. Wise Kyle, great to see you at the Real Talk Pond Hockey Classic. Thanks for swinging by. He showed me his scar. He has a gnarly scar. He had heart surgery the other. Yeah, unbelievable. Kyle says, you're right, Jess. You don't get the American twist and spin on Real Talk, but you get the twist and spin of the Canadian government, says Wise Kyle. Just remind him, we read his comments. I think that, whether this doesn't sort of right now have the vibe of a liberal v conservative approach. It really doesn't. You don't see this very often. No. And to be honest, I'm kind of relishing it. Like does French's make relish? I'm trying to think of a good Canadian relish. There's local relish that's made, from rescued beets in Edmonton. I've enjoyed that beet relish. But I'm relishing in the fact that everybody's not going after each other's throats right now. You see, I'm seeing an entirely different side of Doug Ford right now, for example. Doug Ford is very likable right now. Do you agree?
Yeah, and I'm surprised, but
he's kind of come across as like Uncle Doug to a bunch of people right now.
Well, I hope everybody gets to that point. The challenge around politics is that we're so divided now. To me, the middle was always about the rational, intelligent, pragmatic, let's find solutions to problems. And since this is such a big problem, we've abandoned this, the extremes and the hatred for each other and are coming together. I wish it would last a lot longer and we focused on problem solving and less on political, points. And I hope we get to relish this for a while longer.
Lauren in the live chat says it is tough to crack the egg market. So
I know there's challenges that go with that.
Terrible yoke.
Yeah.
Terrible yoke. People can check out more about.
That was a good one.
Dad jokes are always going to find their way into the show, like it or not. If people want to learn more about the benefits of membership and some of the advocacy that you and your talented team are consistently working on, they can check out edmontonchamber.com. I noticed, I was just clicking on the events link as you were talking. You've got something coming up just tomorrow on the 5th of February, which is a neat resource, the events link at edmontonchamber.com. You guys have your, or rather that's today, pardon me, the University of Alberta Spring Hiring Fair. Pretty neat. You've got some really neat stuff coming on. You've got mixers and minglers, a fondue experience this weekend. I noticed that you have coming up a little bit later on an Alberta budget event. You got your coffee with the chamber coming up at the end of the month. Always something.
You know, that Alberta budget event sold out on the day before it came with Minister Horner. And we announced it last Monday, and it sold out in 3 days. So
Wow.
we're trying to expand. We have more people coming to our events than ever before. Our memberships are growing quickly. You can now buy them online. And, of course, we're easy to reach if you ever have any questions. But we're here for the business community and Edmonton's economy to make sure it moves ahead.
I like the very first time I ever emailed or called the chamber, it was like a real human responded right back. I like that. Coming up, I should mention on the 5th, which is the Wednesday of this week, tomorrow, if you're listening to us the day we're doing it, Navigating Canada's Immigration Programs Insights for Employees, a great event as well, coming up on Wednesday. All the details at edmontonchamber.com. That's where Doug Griffiths is president and CEO. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for the common sense analysis of what's happening in a chaotic circumstance right now.
Thanks, Ryan. I always love being on your show, and thanks for what you do.
Good stuff. Let us know what you think about what Doug brought to the table. What's your business doing? What's your plan of action over the next week and beyond? In just a couple of seconds, we're going to welcome to the program Marshall McAlister joining us from Road Investment Counsel. What are the markets doing right now? What might that mean for your RSP, your investments? What opportunities are there? Where do you maybe want to stay away from? How about the future of the Canadian dollar over the next month, over the next year? Marshall's going to get into it with us. Before we get there, I have a major announcement, John. I have a major announcement, and that is this Sunday, we're going to be at On the Rocks on Jasper Avenue for their Super Bowl party, and you're not going to want to miss this. I am so excited to be hosting this with Marco and his team over there, where they eat well, they party hard. You won't find a better place to watch the Super Bowl than On the Rocks, and they have limited tickets available right now. You got to check out their website, ontherocks.com. They got, as the website shows me right now, 45 tickets left. That's down from about 140 a couple of days ago. $30 gets you in the door. They have their all-you-can-eat tailgate buffet, a prepaid Moosehead beer, a commemorative t-shirt, plus entry to all the prizes. You're going, all of that for $30? Yeah, all you can eat, a beer, a t-shirt, plus you're entered in all the prizes. They've got drink specials throughout, and at the end of the game, you got to be there to win. They give away $1,000 cash. Not even an e-transfer. They give it in an envelope. $1,000 cash. Somebody's going to win it at the Rockin' Bowl Super Party at On the Rocks. I can't wait to host. I hope to see you there Sunday, Real Talkers. You can get your tickets right now at ontherocks.com. We're also excited coming up in March for UCAN Youth Services Comedy Nights. I mean, I'm every single episode telling you how proud we are of the work that they're doing at UCAN Youth Services, transferring, unbelievable opportunities along to young adults that just need exactly that. Somebody to put a little faith in them, somebody to put some opportunity in front of them. Sometimes it's education, sometimes it's employment services. And a big way that they're able to carry this budget-wise is through their fundraisers, their comedy nights, mid-March, the 10th through the 12th, the 17th to the 19th. You can find out all the details at ucancomedy.com. They're looking for silent auction items. We're throwing in this, Johnny, I didn't tell you this yet. We're throwing in Dinner with Jespo into the silent auction.
Oh.
I'm excited about it. I wonder who's going to buy it.
I wonder where
do you think we're going to go? I don't know. We'll go somewhere fun.
I love it.
If you have a silent auction item you could donate in support of an amazing cause, check out ucancomedy.com. That's the best place to get in touch with them. And all this talk about grocery budgets, listen, we get it. I know that families are trying to make the most of their dollars. They're trying to make the most every single time of what they're putting in their cart and bringing home to put on the dinner table every time they're hitting the store. That's why we recommend Friesen Brothers wholeheartedly, celebrating their 70th anniversary this year, still family-owned. Frank Loveson founded Friesen Brothers, a small butcher shop in Hinton, Alberta, back in 1955, and his sons are still running this place, expanding it, 16 locations now, absolutely unbelievable. Our family loves their Family Essentials flyer. You can check it out on their website, or they have it in store. Quality food for low prices every day. They've got recipes right there with the flyer, so they make it absolutely simple to put great food on the family dinner table. And don't forget, the first of every month, circle it March 1st, the next one, 15% off all grocery purchases of $75 or more only at Friesen Brothers.
Oh, I need those recipes because I'm horrible at cooking, so I need to be told how to do it. Great point by Doug about, kind of everyone on the left. You said it too, and right, kind of coming together here. It's a bad thing that we're all angry, but it's good that we're all kind of agreeing and coming together. And I also like this point on fentanyl. That's the point that bugs me the most about this. Like, you could go right. I'm looking at the DEA website in the States. They unclassify their info like 2 years back, so you can only see 2023. But all the arrows for fentanyl coming into the States are coming. Canada's not even in their report. It's China number one. It's Mexico second, it's India third, and the amount coming in from Canada, you can't even see it on their website because they like. But it's so small. It's the size. Somebody compared it to the size of a bag of fertilizer. That's the amount, and I understand.
Which is a lot of fentanyl.
A grain of salt can OD someone on fentanyl. I get it, but when you're talking about shipping containers coming from China, it's uncomparable.
Yeah,
right?
but you and I and millions of other people have been rolling our eyes over the fentanyl assertion the whole time, and I appreciate that. I don't know if you and I were watching Mark Cortney yesterday. Was on with Jake Tapper on the lead, and he said, and Carney I thought was an appropriate response, and I would imagine that other political leaders or potential leaders, let me say, would be saying the same thing, that we don't take fentanyl lightly. We don't want the message to be the Americans to be that we don't take it seriously, that we're blowing off Trump's concerns or blowing off the issue. It is an issue. But Canada is the source of the issue is not a thing. That is not the headline, and I don't think many people believe that it was. We got to figure out, can I give you a job behind the scene? We got to figure out who RH is in the chat, because there's another $50 contribution
we gotta hook
to the
them
super
up,
chat. So RH, if we can find a way to communicate directly with them, we're going to get something in the mail today. Mug, shirt, toque, like $50 again.
100% we could do that. But
says maintaining the CBC is now a matter of national defense, says RH. The maintenance and enhancement of our healthcare system is also a matter of national security. We also need Canadian social media platforms, not the manipulated X, formerly known as Twitter. Canadian social media. I saw somebody earlier in the chat today saying, could some entrepreneur start up a Canadian version of Amazon?
Nuck chat or something? Or I don't know what we're going to do there.
I don't know what it would be called. Give me 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes as we welcome the president of Road Investment Counsel, Marshall McAlister. It's so nice to have you joining us here in studio, Marshall. I know for a lot of people, amidst this chaos, the number one thing they're worried about is maybe their bottom line, their investments, what the markets are doing, but kind of an interesting development over the last 24 hours.
Yeah, no question, Ryan. It is one of the issues that moms and dads need to face is, what do you do with your capital? You're saving money for retirement, trying to help your kids go to school, saving up for a down payment for a home. Where do you put your money in? And especially with the tariff Trump talks that we've been going through the last few weeks and months, this is becoming a real big issue. Yeah. So you can take your money, give it to the Canadian government, buy a Canadian bond. Could you guess what rate of return you would get?
Isn't it like 1-point-something%?
Well, if you gave your money for 10 years to the federal government, you're going to get just over 3%. Okay. 5 years, you're going to get close to 2.7%. Now, inflation pressures can grow by that and more. Yeah. So you got to do something with your capital to grow it faster than what you're going to get with conservative investments with a bond or with a GIC from a bank. So that's where investment advisors come in. That's where capital markets come in. What do you do with your capital? Where do you put it? And the question that we're getting here at North Road is like, what do we do with our U.S. investments? Do we hit back to the U.S. with our U.S. equities? Do we remove U.S. equities from our portfolio and really show them who's boss? Well, that's probably not going to make much of a difference in terms of the world politics and what's going on in the United States. So I guess I remember a story when I was driving with my parents. We were going to church. I was probably in grade school. I was mad at mom and dad, and I said, you know what? I'm not buying you guys a Christmas present this year. So, it meant a lot to me. To them, not much at all. Now, Canada, we are so much smaller than the United States. Us trying to negotiate by not owning U.S. stocks is not going to matter at all to what's going on in the U.S. market.
But folks that are paying attention to the great disruptor, to 47, to Donald Trump, and to his, the fact that, some people will respect this about him, is that no long-held relationship is safe, no existing trade agreement is safe. The rules of engagement are always on the table and in flux. And people are going right now, probably a little bit nervous to make an investment or to blow it or to watch their investments evaporate. What have you been keeping an eye on development-wise in the markets? What's happening as a result of the tariff talk? Was there a resurgence in the market as the pause was announced yesterday? Like, what's actually happening?
Okay, so let's talk about some numbers. Last year, the Canadian stock market, measured by the TSX Composite, so just for the listeners' benefit, we measure a stock market using data with an index. And right now, our Canadian index is made up of about 240 businesses put in a bucket, and we watch the growth of that bucket, and that'll grow and shrink day by day. Last year, that bucket grew by 21.6%.
That's good, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
On average, we've seen that grow like over long periods of time, 8 to 10%. Okay, so we had a fantastic year last year. That was a year that we knew that Donald Trump was going to be the leader of United States. So now we're getting into 2025. That same index, that same grouping of 240 plus businesses has grown by 2% in the month of January. And that's after yesterday's market drop of 1%. So the market fell by 3% in the day on Monday. A tough day, right? But then it rallied back to.
I have a civilian question for you. A 3% daily drop in a market, is that, like, relatively speaking? I don't watch markets daily.
Yeah.
Is that like catastrophic?
No.
Is that troubling? Is that normal?
That is annoying, but normal.
Annoying but normal. Okay.
Like, markets are always going to be disappointing. They're annoying, and they surprise us to the upside. A 3% drop in a day happens all the time.
So what does that say to you then about the politics of all of this and how the markets are reflecting it? Like Doug was making really interesting points about how politicians can communicate, and we talk about this all the time on how they can kind of manipulate the way that we feel about something, or at least make an attempt to do so. But the markets oftentimes are more of a barometer of where everybody's at,
For
right?
sure. Yeah, markets are forward-looking. If we expected that all of Canadian publicly traded businesses were going to be 25% less profitable if the tariffs were to come in, the markets would have dropped by 25%.
Yes.
Instantly. Okay, and then we would have gone on with an index price that was 75% of what it was, and then we're moving forward. We didn't see that. Okay, we also didn't see the the Canadian dollar fall massively. Yes, it fell. It dropped to about a 22-year low at close to about 64 or 65 cents.
Not great.
Not great, but we're now back up to close to 70 cents today. Now, this is millions of people voting with their economic activity, and the Canadian dollar represents exactly what the Canadian dollar should be worth. It's worth about 70 cents. So in my world, when we're talking about predictions, like, where's the dollar going to go? Is it going to go higher or going to go lower? The best way that we can look at what the dollar is going to be tomorrow is what the dollar is today, because that's the clearing price for commerce. Like, people are buying and selling real goods. They're buying and selling real debt. And that's what the dollar's worth. It's a 70-cent dollar right now.
Are there silver linings here? Are there some real opportunities here, like for people that are investing? I know you're probably not, you don't want to give like a stock tip right now, although if you do, let us know. But is there something where you look at like Canadian steel or the oil and gas play, or something else where you go, gosh, that could really boom. That could be one to watch over the next few months.
Okay, so I would say first to your listeners, like, take a step back and look at the allocation of your portfolio, especially United States. So I've been doing this job in various forms for about 25 years. United States was close to 30% of the world's capitalization value at the beginning of basically in the 80s. Okay, Ryan, the U.S. market is worth 70% of the global capitalization right now. So if you took all the publicly traded businesses in the world, you measured them by where their head office is located, United States is 70. Canada is 3. Okay, this has been a huge story in the economic world. So how does that relate to mums and dads saving money in Edmonton and Alberta? Well, if you have been investing in the United States and you've had a lot of gains on your portfolio, maybe now is the time to look at that portfolio and say, maybe I can take a little bit of that gain off the table and diversify into other areas of the economy.
We got a lot of people here in the live chat. We could keep you here for an hour, Marshall. We're talking to Marshall McAlister. If you're just joining us on the Real Talk live stream presented by California Closets, Marshall, president of Road Investment Counsel. Pretty interesting point here from someone who says that this is Tracy, who says, I'm most sad about pensions being dependent on real estate markets. To fix real estate would mean damage to pensions. Do you have an insight into that? It's kind of an interesting point.
Last year, the publicly traded real estate markets were one of the only asset classes that had a negative return.
Yeah.
They were down about 5%.
Do you think that's because people are working from home and the leases are up? And is it the commercial real estate? Is that where the value loss is?
Yeah, these businesses are less profitable.
Yeah.
But it's not. This isn't the end of the story. I mean, things can change.
Like it's a good time to buy an office building.
Well, prices are the great prices is the great equalizer, right?
Yeah.
So if you've had a negative, realized return, you need to be compensated with an expected return in the next period to entice you to take that risk.
Yes.
Okay. So in terms of real estate, if we're looking at real estate markets, people that own this real estate need to be compensated with a higher future return, or otherwise they wouldn't own it. The exact opposite in the United States, if we look at these the Magnificent Seven in the United States, the Googles and the Apples and the Amazons, they make up 35% of the U.S. market alone.
That's wild.
Yeah. Their return in U.S. dollars last year was 46%. Okay. So what's the expected return of those 7 stocks now going forward? Is it going to be another 46%? Very unlikely, because you have to have absolutely perfect business performance for those businesses to keep going at that level. It's very, very unlikely.
Can you imagine if we would have taken our $400 in Ralph bucks and bought Google? Was Google around in 90? I don't think Google was around then. I think we might have been a few years ahead. Gosh, wouldn't that have been nice if you would have learned about it right at the very beginning?
Yeah.
Marshall, thanks for I don't want to say dumbing it down, but putting this into plain language so we can have some clear understanding of what's happening right here. I know that, it says it right on your website, and we're proud to partner with you. I want to let people know we're talking about North Road every single day, but a steady hand and a studied voice to guide you through wealth and investing, and you're living that right now on the show. Thanks for making time for us.
Thanks, Ryan.
It's good to see you. Real Talkers, if you know somebody in your orbit that would benefit from Marshall's expertise, make sure you share this episode. We're going to put it into a highlight on our YouTube channel so you can make it nice and easy to share. And don't forget to subscribe to the Real Talk YouTube channel. You can also check out North Road's YouTube channel, by the way. Link to it right off their website at northroadic.com. They've got a ton of resources there if you want to dig a little bit deeper into that investment advice and their take on wealth management. Our friends at Kubi Renewable Energy want to remind you that they're hiring right now. We know not a lot of people are thinking of putting solar panels up when it's minus 25 and there's a foot of fresh snow on the roof, but Kubi is ready to get going as soon as that snow melts, which means their teams in Lethbridge, Edmonton, Calgary, and Kamloops need to be trained up and ready to go. So they actually never stop hiring. 12 months a year. It's a process, and you can check out the careers link right now on their website, kubi.ca, to see what's available. They spell it out, and so as they fill the positions, they evaporate from the site, and as new positions pop up, you want to make sure you check back. They're looking for an electrical engineer, for example, in Calgary. They're looking for a solar PV expert in Calgary. Edmonton, a solar PV designer. They're looking for an apprentice electrician in Lethbridge and Kamloops and Calgary and Edmonton. Lethbridge, they've got a sales job as well. You get the idea, and it goes on and on. Look at this, a journey person in Kamloops, a lead structural engineer in Calgary. These are good jobs with Canada's fastest growing green energy installer. That's Kubi Energy at kubi.ca. Also, a big shout out to our friends at Complete Care Restoration, doing an unbelievable job helping folks in, honestly, the worst case scenarios. People that have been impacted by fire, flood, maybe it's smoke damage, maybe it's a sewer backup. We've been through that as a family, the absolute worst. Complete Care Restoration guides you through every step of the process, making it as stress-free as possible. Don't wait for damage to worsen. Contact Complete Care Restoration today. Mind that comes with expert care. You can find them online at completecarerestoration.ca. Well, man, oh man, I don't think we've ever experienced this before, Johnny. I just want to note on the Real Talk live chat right now, powered by Park Power, RH,
Bowman,
maybe one of the new best friends of the show, and you can't buy our friendship, but sometimes you kind of can. And another $20 into the YouTube Super Chat says, listen, a Canadian Amazon, what a great idea. I'm all for it. Let's make it part of the new Canada Post business plan.
Canazon.
I have all day. Canazon. That's amazing. Says, let's call it Three Coasts. I like that. Says, by the way, this is a great show. Indeed, a public service. Thank you guys so much for what you're doing. RH, thank you for what you're doing. That's absolutely incredible. We're actually looking to make a small tech upgrade, and I think RH has covered the entire cost of it this morning, so that's great. I want to thank everybody that contributes to the show. I saw that Les kicked in $5 on the Super Chat as well. Just listen, it means we're not all about the money. It sounds like we're talking about it a lot right now because it's somewhat of a unique development in our Super Chat today. But those of you that support us on Patreon, those of you that support our sponsors, it goes a long way in keeping the show viable, and we sure do appreciate it. RH, with the interesting point there, talking about the new business model for Canada Post, I've seen a lot of people that basically say, you got to let Canada Post either sink or swim. It's got to be a viable business. Now, I know that you want to apply business principles to public services. Bear with me here for a quick second as I explain. But for example, public transit is never profitable, ever, right? It's, you invest in it as a municipality or as a region.
It serves a purpose.
And it serves a purpose. It's integral for some people to get around, people that otherwise wouldn't be able to afford getting around. Sure. They can't Uber to work every single day. They're not going to ride their bikes across the city. And you collect user fees as best you can. You discount them or make them free for seniors or folks living with disabilities or whatever the case may be. But transit is always going to bleed money. The police is not going to be profitable. Public education is not profitable. Healthcare is definitely not profitable in Canada anyway. But Canada Post, should we treat it differently than we treat other public services, or should it be financially viable? Canada Post has been bleeding money for years.
Yeah, I think Canada Post's best bet, and this isn't like a boomer thing or it's going away, but it is. Like, mail is going away, but shipping of stuff is not going away. And that's, I would guess, I mean, I haven't seen their numbers, but I would guess the main portion of what Canada Post is doing now is delivering first packages and stuff like that. And then second, mail that is very important, like, I would guess like credit card bills and stuff like that. But even that stuff, everyone has an app for that nowadays. But I think of like the holidays that just went by, Christmas Bureau sends out those cards to everyone. Those have got to get to people in time for the holidays. So I think like essential stuff that needs to be shipped to people and packages. But that just sounds to me like Canada Post should kind of turn into like Purolator or FedEx. That would be their best bet.
But then do you want
if they want to be competitive?
Like, do you want a Crown Corporation competing with business? You know what I mean?
I don't think that. They're still going to have to deliver essential things in the mail. But if they push that side a little more, and if they can be a little bit more competitive, like I said, they're bleeding money. But if more people ship with them than Purolator and FedEx, if they can offer, better service than them, it's not really about competing. It's about having enough money so that they can still deliver these other essential things that are still going to the mail, right?
Yeah, Sylvie says, listen, Canada Post is a public service. And that's true, but Cherie says Canada Post is totally important. Look at what it did to us when the strike happened.
Whoa, I didn't know this. Cactus says Canada Post owns Purolator.
Is that true? I don't know. We can fact check that. That's your job, Johnny. No, I'm too busy to fact check. But I would just say you can make the same argument. I mean, we can draw a parallel here in the conversation to Canada Post and the CBC. And one of the biggest complaints that people have had about the CBC is when it's trying to compete. We have a fact check.
It is owned by, So I guess they already are.
Okay, so that's 2 points
so
for
that
Alberta
is their
Girl.
side of it.
2 points.
Yeah.
But like, we don't want CBC to compete directly with all of the other broadcasters. No. We want them to provide a unique service. And so what is Canada Post's unique service? I mean, direct door-to-door mail delivery is obviously unique.
Yeah, of course.
I guess I just think that it's important for Canadians to have this conversation. We want to have an informed conversation if we're going to talk about the investment in a public service. And with Canada Post, it's in the billions annually.
I know. And
you want to know that it makes sense.
And we're not ragging on Canada Post either. Like today, for example, you want people that are delivering mail in -25 to be paid well, to have health benefits if they get a cold or the flu, because they're out there in this crap delivering us essential mail. So we get it. But like when they need raises every year and the money coming in is going down, I just don't see how you survive.
Yeah. I am the son-in-law of a proud letter carrier, now retired, but a public servant for many, many years. And I can tell you, like, it's a thankless job a lot of times.
Of course
like,
it is.
They take real
when
pride.
I see them,
they take major pride.
Thank you. Have a great day. I hope you're doing well. You know, like
I forced our letter carrier. I forced him
to take a gift,
to accept a gift at Christmas because he was like,
don't
"Nah,
want to.
no." I handed this to him. I said, "Can I hand this to you?" And he goes, "Sure." And he like reaches out and takes it. Hooked him up with some cider, some beverages, and then a little card, a thank you card with a little something in it. And I said, "Can I give this to you?" And he goes, "Sure." And he takes it. This tells you what a salt of the earth guy he is. And you feel like you get to know your letter carrier a little bit if you're home during that time of the day when they're coming by time and time again. And he goes, "Sure." And he takes it. And then he kind of looks at me, and I'm looking at him, and he goes, "Where's it going?" And I go, "No, man, it's for you." He thought I was asking him to like hand deliver it to somebody. I'm going, "No, dude, it's for you." Well, you may not have known it, but today is actually World Cancer Day. And I guarantee, and this is not something that I take pleasure in, I guarantee that virtually everybody that's watching or listening to this episode immediately has a name pop to mind. And maybe it's a bit of a punch in the gut. Maybe you've just lost somebody to cancer. We lost one of our very best friends this year to cancer, 41 years of age. Maybe you know somebody fighting for their life right now. Maybe you know a cancer survivor. Maybe you are one yourself. It's a huge honor to introduce you to two Alberta girls. They're sisters. They're twins. And remarkably, both of them are cancer survivors. As a matter of fact, they've both survived the same rare form of cancer. Courtney Drover and Connie Claeys, what a pleasure to welcome you to Real Talk. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. Your story is unlike any other that I've heard. Twins fighting the same form of cancer. Is it as unique as it sounds?
We've asked this to our doctor many times because we found it quite odd when I first got diagnosed that Con shortly after would be diagnosed pretty much with the same thing. So we've asked that question many times, and the answer is yes, it is very rare. I think, are we the only ones, the only ones I think at the time we were the only ones that our doctor anyway had heard of in Alberta, that twins that got diagnosed that close together. So yeah.
Unbelievable. You're coming up, Courtney, on the 10-year anniversary of your diagnosis. Is that right?
It's crazy. Yes. 2015 was my first diagnosis. And in ways it's like a world, like forever ago. And in ways it seems like just yesterday, but it's been like, a crazy journey for us. I mean, I could have never imagined 10 years ago that we would be where we are right now, but yeah, here we are.
But you're at the time you're 29 years old, right?
Yeah.
Like
yes.
I don't know. The average 29-year-old probably doesn't have this on their radar. But what is it? You're putting deodorant on or something? Someday you notice a lump in your armpit. What how did it get on your radar?
You know what? It was really weird because I think back to it a lot. Just being so young, it wasn't on my radar. I mean, it couldn't have been further from my radar. Honestly, I had so much other things on my mind. So I did have a lump, and it was about the size of a golf ball, and it was there for probably a good 6 months. And I just thought, that it was normal. Like, you get lumps when you get sick or whatever. And that's what the doctors kept telling me. So when I did actually go and get it checked, being urged from my mom to go get an ultrasound, and it turned out to be cancerous. I mean, I almost fell over. I probably did fall over, honestly. Mm-hmm. Just being told that you know nothing about it. And I mean, at that point, you're so young. And I just remember thinking, like, now what? What is this? What does this mean? I knew nothing about it. So it was one of the scariest moments of my life. And I wish I had known then even a fraction of what I know now. And I probably would have handled it a little bit better. But it was a very scary moment for me, for sure, especially at that age.
What do you mean? What do you mean you would have maybe handled it better? How can anybody be expected to handle news like that?
Yeah,
That's a
cement
truck.
Let me explain. Given 10 years and just what we've been through, I think we've been kind of sideswiped so many times in our life. Going to the doctor thinking everything's fine. No, you're not fine. Back then, I remember when I first got my very first diagnosis, I was in the room with my dad, and they said, you have cancer. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to die. Like literally the first thing that came to my mind is like, Mom and Dad, I'm going to die, because I didn't know anything that I know now. At least now I know that there are things that I can take and there's things that I can do. But back then, I mean, cancer was the scariest word in the world, and we never learned anything about it. It was never a talk that me and Connor, our family, or anybody would have had with us saying like, this is, what it's like or whatever. I thought only older people got cancer, and, I thought that people just died from it. I remember seeing in movies like, people with no hair and 80 pounds and in wheelchairs. And I literally remember going to my dad's house and just crying after and thinking like, this is it for me. I'm done for. And now, we've had a couple of diagnoses since then, and I have handled them much better, just in the sense that like, you know a lot more about cancer. And we've just had no choice but to learn so much more about it, given 10 years that we've been going through this.
You two are absolute warriors, and we'll get into your story of what the last 10 years have looked like. And a spoiler alert for our audience, there have also been some miracles along the way, which we'll get to as well. But Connie, so your womb mate, as they say, like this is like your womb mate is receives this devastating diagnosis, 29 years old. Was it you hear sometimes with twins, like there's like an extra special kind of a connection, obviously.
Definitely.
One gets a headache, the other has a headache, that sort of did you right away wonder if you two might be about to enter that exact same foxhole, that exact same battle?
Honestly, no. Wow. My first concern at the time was like, what the hell? Like Court said, like, cancer was for people like older in age, not 29. So my first concern was her and what this meant, like moving forward, trying to understand it. But I never thought it would be me. I really only got checked. Like I got an ultrasound and a biopsy and stuff like that because my doctor at the time just told me that I should. But no, my concern was never that it would happen to me. So that was mind blowing when it did happen to me like 4 weeks later. So no, I never ever thought that. My main concern was just her and what that looked like, what her journey looked like going forward with like chemo and radiation and everything and getting checked. I mean, I was also floored when I got my diagnosis, because it was like the worst thing was her getting it, and then to add on top of that was me getting it, and it's like double whammied.
So shortly after both of you have been diagnosed, and can you help me understand what this is, just for people that are listening? This it was invasive ductal carcinoma. My understanding is that this is it's genetically related, but relatively rare.
Yeah, so at the time we didn't know it was genetically related. So Cortney had a lump, was told it was just, she had a cold, she gets her diagnosis. I never felt anything. When I was diagnosed, I still had never felt anything. I never would have gone to the doctor for any type of lump or anything like that. So yeah, that was a big shock. I don't know if you ever want to say anything about that. Yeah, ours were completely different. I had, something that could tell me to go and get it done. Whereas Con literally just got checked, just that it was the doctors were like, Court's 29, what's going on? Then Con got checked, she has something. So then we got checked and realized that we have the BRCA4 gene. Yes, we got genetic testing, which was also really scary to do. But when we found out that we did carry the BRCA2 gene, which gives you an 80% chance of having breast cancer, it made more sense as to why we were diagnosed. I think we would have been a lot more confused if we were like, didn't have that gene. We would have been like, what the heck? But because we had it, we were like, okay, this makes sense. Which led to us finding out that it came from our dad's side. Obviously, both of our parents had to get tested for it, which then led to my dad's side of the family. So sisters, kids having to get tested as well to see if they carry it.
Huh. That's something that happens with a family, isn't it? It sends kind of a chill through a whole family when somebody experiences something. I remember it's a different ball game, but I remember a friend of mine, his dad passed away tragically in his sleep, a cardiac event at 53, and then all of a sudden they start doing heart testing on all the family members, and they start to recognize that there's this issue that persists. And long story short, they're having these, not pacemakers, but things put in. The point being, all of a sudden, everybody's lives are kind of turned upside down. People are thinking about things in the context of their own survival that weren't even on their radar like a month previous.
It's definitely I think about that a lot. The waterfall effect that it was. Like my diagnosis led to, kind of Con getting diagnosed and
100%.
Our little sister getting tested and realizing she had the gene. Nobody else has been diagnosed with cancer, but you're right. All of a sudden people were thinking about things that they never thought they would have to think about. So
your kids will now have to think
about
it.
My kids will now have to, if they choose to get tested later on to see if they have the gene. So it's kind of like it's almost never ending in a sense, the journey that has been started for us. So we just kind of learned to live with it. And we know that it's, something that we have to live with.
You're doing advocacy within your own families, and you're doing it publicly as well. How about this from Cherie, who's watching us live on YouTube right now, says, this is such a good reminder to do a self-check today. She says, I don't do it often enough. It's World Cancer Day. If you're just joining us, we're talking to Cortney Drover, Connie Claeys. They're twin sisters, both of them cancer survivors. This feels like a very personal question, pardon me for asking it, but January of 2016, the two of you are heading in. Were you heading in together, double mastectomies, right around the same time? Obviously a tough time for the family, but what an incredible kind of a mile marker in your life together.
It was. Courtney's was, I don't remember the date, but hers was the day before mine. So I kind of got to see firsthand what she had to go through, and it was absolutely terrifying. Both before and after the surgery. But again, like in typical Court fashion, being the older twin, I remember the first thing I went in to see her, and she literally just looked at me and she's like, it's going to be okay. And it was like, her concern was more on me in that moment, for me the next day. And it was amazing. We lived together at the time, and we had our family, our mom, dad, stepdad, stepmom, all came up to be with us and take care of us. And we got to heal together. And I don't know how I would have done it if it wasn't both of us. Yeah, it's different when you get to do it together. I mean, I think, being the older twin of 5 minutes, I kind of always thought that I would carry this cancer. We made light of it by saying, I'm the older one, I'm carrying it for all of us. And when Con got diagnosed, I was like, oh my gosh, that doesn't make sense anymore. But I remember on the day of the mastectomy going in the mirror and just, looking at myself and being like, it's good. I had a little cry, went out, and I was like, let's do this. And having each other has just made this journey. It's just so different having somebody to lean on with those things. I mean, it wasn't an easy surgery by any means. And I'm grateful that I got to, do it first and have Con do it right after me.
Really incredible. I want to just thank the two of you for, I'm not letting you go yet, but I just want to thank you for really rallying this Real Talk community, and people are sharing. I mean, these are hard ones to read. We think of Ashley today. Ashley's in our live chat, says, cancer took my father-in-law 9 months following diagnosis. We lost him in October. Ashley, I'm so sorry to hear that. I mean, sometimes these stories are just absolutely brutal. Tracy says she's been through that genetic testing, says it's nerve-wracking, but negative results, which she had on 40 different cancers, says also doesn't guarantee you'll never get cancer. It just guarantees you won't get those cancers. Both of you have had kind of a wild ride, right? If my math is correct, Cortney, you're sort of in the clear for 3-4 years, and then a lump pops up on your neck, and then Connie, a couple of years later, same deal with you, a tumor on your lung.
Yeah, we definitely got, I can just say we got sideswiped again. I remember same exact kind of story. I had a lump on my neck. It was nothing. I went to get it ultrasound biopsied. No, they didn't want to do it. It was nothing. So, I'm living my life, and my lump wouldn't go away. So finally, they did a biopsy on it, and I went to my doctor again, and that appointment was absolutely devastating. I will never, ever forget sitting there, and we were all just laughing. I'm thinking, this is fine. I don't know why. My sisters were there and my husband, and I thought, you guys don't need to be here. Why are you here? It's fine. And he came in and said, well, it's spread, and
just listed off, kept listing places it has spread.
And I think I had an out-of-body experience, because I don't even remember exactly what was said, or it was wild. And I thought, oh, here we go again. It was just the scariest moment of my life. I had no idea that it was going to come back. I had it in my mind that because I had done chemo and radiation, I had my double mastectomy. In my mind, I thought, it's done. I've learned my lesson. I'll take better care of my body, and I've done what I need to do to get rid of this. So it was just another time where you're just totally, I honestly could not believe it.
Can I ask the two of you, like, people are always interested in lifestyle adjustments and how different people have approached news that they're fighting cancer or their life post cancer. What are some of the lifestyle changes that you've made in light of these battles that you've fought, and what do you like to talk to people about and put on other folks' radar?
I think that's a tough one because we really believe in like food helping you, like what you choose to eat and not to eat, and helping your body fight off certain things. We believe in like just taking care of yourself, like doing yoga, meditations, like things that will calm your body. But that's always been a hard question because we also believe in the medication side.
Yeah, I think both have to interact
together. I mean, a healthier body to me is going to be able to fight the meds in me and Connor both on a targeted therapy right now. So we have stage 4 metastatic breast cancer now. So it's never really going to go away. We're going to be on meds for the rest of our lives. So we're on a med right now. We're on the same one. And, it really affects us differently. I find that I'm, achy. My body, honestly, I feel like I'm much older than I am right now. Everything hurts and I really have to take care of my body or I don't think that the meds will be good for me. I've had to, start working from home just so that I can kind of like nap on my breaks because I do get really run down from my meds. So, we have really had to take a step back and readjust our lives in certain ways. I have 4 kids. So it's not easy. I still have to be a mom. I still have to work and I do still have to somehow take care of myself. And it's a battle every day. You sometimes forget and then, we'll get sick easier from our meds or will not feel good. So we really had to take a step back and for me, put better things in my body and try and, do yoga or whatever, just to help myself out for sure.
I love this. I want to read as many of these to you as I can. Glenna says, I just love this family pulling together. Tracy says, I love these two. Difficult stories to tell, but I'm grateful to be able to listen to them today. It is World Cancer Day. We cannot gloss over the 2 little miracles. Cortney, what was it? Was it 2016, 17, 2019? Was it two unexpected arrivals? My understanding is like chemo can oftentimes for a lot of people mean infertility, right?
Definitely. And that was a huge thing for me. I remember them. I had a son at the time. I was a single mom and I had always wanted more kids. I mean, that was on my life plan. So when they told me like, wow, that's probably not happening for you. I remember looking at my mom and saying like, I'm not getting chemo. Like it's not happening. And she said like, yes, you are, like, you need to really think about this. And I said, well, then I'm freezing some eggs. And the doctor pretty much looked at me and said like, no, you don't have time. Like you need to be in a chemo chair yesterday. So freezing the eggs is not part of what we think that you should do. And not doing chemo is not something that we think you should do. So I remember that was so hard to accept. It was like my life was ripped from me. Like being a mom is like, what I do, it's what I love to do. And when you're told you can't have kids and then on top of that, you have to go put all this crap in your body. I mean, I was so mad. I was so sad. I just cried and cried and cried. So I went and did the chemo and, kind of, I guess, accepted that part of my life as much as I could. And I think I did 8 chemotherapies and I ended the end of November. And by February of 2016, I found out that I was pregnant with my daughter Avery. So amazing news. I was over the moon. Also the scariest news ever, because I probably still had chemo running through my body. I was due to start radiation as soon as I was healthy enough with the chemo, kind of like, I needed a break, but I was due to, get my surgery and start radiation. And I had all these plans with my health and here I am, I want a child. So that was really hard. I had to talk to my radiation doctor who said, like, we don't advise you to have a baby. Obviously my family was like, goodness, this is hard to think about.
The hormones too, because our cancer feeds off of hormones.
Right. So the
hormones
side of it. Yeah. And I had just had a double mastectomy in January. So my body, it was a lot to think about. It was, my family was scared. My radiation doctor was scared. And I said, well, my oncologist, Dr. Webster, has, I believe, saved my life. Love him. Oh my goodness. And I said, it'll be his whatever he tells me, I'm going to do. And I remember I went to him and he said, no, I think it'll be okay. Like this will be okay pretty much. And I said, okay, then I'm going to do it. And in October of 2019, I gave birth to my daughter, Avery. 2016. I gave birth to Avery, who is now 8. She's in grade 3, perfectly healthy, amazing, smart, oh my gosh, intelligent little girl.
Uh-huh.
And then in 2019, I gave birth to another girl, Harlow. So yes, my family is complete now. I have a stepdaughter and my son and 2 little girls. And I mean, yeah, they're all miracles in their own little way. I always tell Avery she's my little miracle, and she knows it. I don't think she quite understands, but she lets everybody know that she's a little miracle. So the world works in mysterious ways, but yes, I'm so blessed.
Amazing. We're just looking at your beautiful family right now. It's I can't imagine. You must wake up every single day and just like you've got the miracles looking at you right back in the face and powering you forward, you know?
Oh, they are my son was there for me. He was really little at the time. I think he was about 4 when I first got diagnosed, and he went through that with me. And I remember the second time I got my diagnosis later on, my stage 4 diagnosis, and I had to tell him. It was heartbreaking. And again, I don't know exactly what he understood, but I remember he said, "Mom, are we going to be okay?" He didn't say, "Are you going to be okay?" He said, "Are we going to be okay?" Because we were like a package, me and him. Like, he saw me at my worst, my chemo days, shaving my hair, all of it he saw. And it was really hard to tell all the kids again. But for him, just being there with me that first diagnosis as well was, there's not a lot of kids that see that. So yeah, every time I look at them, they're definitely the strength that gets both of us by, I think.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I see he's a Chiefs fan. Maybe he'll have something he can get excited about happen on Sunday. We'll see what
he is a huge Chiefs fan.
Yeah. Well, listen, we want to let people know, number one, they can read even more about your story. The two of you have been incredible in your advocacy and being willing to share, including the low moments. But if people check out breastcancerprogress.ca, they can learn more about the No More campaign. They can learn more about World Cancer Day, and of course they can make a donation to the cause. We oftentimes like to in sort of like momentous interviews, powerful interviews like this, we like to ask our guests to leave us something to walk with, leave us something to think about. Maybe it's a challenge, maybe it's a reflection, whatever it is. Can I ask each of you, maybe Cortney, we start with you, to give this audience something to think about through World Cancer Day and beyond?
Yeah, me and Con have always said, like, our huge message to the world is advocate for yourself, because we both had to every time. This hasn't been an easy journey, or one that's just, you get checked, whatever. Like, we've really had to push for things, just being as young as we are, and us advocating for ourselves is what has got us, to where we are with our diagnoses. So that's a huge thing. And second, just I want people to know that as scary as cancer is, and oh my gosh, it is so scary. You can live a pretty normal life with cancer. I mean, as I said, my first diagnosis, I thought I was going to die straight up. And now it's like, we have our moments where, I cry because my meds make me sick, or, I don't feel good and I know it's because of the cancer, and you have those days, and you're definitely like allowed to have those days where you're angry and you're mad. Just don't let it take over. Take the bad and feel those emotions, and then take the good too, because we do have really good days. And you know what, if we're going to do this, we do have each other. And cancer can be such a lonely journey. So I would say reach out to anybody you can. We're on a lot of Facebook groups, and we talk a lot with our family, and it doesn't have to be so taboo. You can talk about it, and you can honestly live a somewhat normal life with cancer. The medicine these days is amazing, and I think it's only going to get better. So as scary as it is, just, if I can say anything, it is that you can still live and make the most of each moment. We've always tried to make the most of each moment, but I think with a diagnosis, those Christmases and birthdays become a little bit more special. So, just make the most of every day, and be happy when you're happy, and you're definitely allowed to be sad as well.
Oh, I love that. Connie, what's your challenge for the audience?
I would say, like, I don't know if it's much of a challenge, but I would say just like live your life to the fullest. You know what I mean? Like travel when you can. I notice with us a lot, it's not like, oh, next year we'll do that. Like, it's like, no, we're going to do that now if we want to do it, like buy the shoes, travel the world, like do the things that scare you or that you want to do. Because like tomorrow isn't promised, even like next year's not promised or whatever, however you want to look at it. But yeah, I would say just like do the things that make you happy. And like Court said, just like lean on the people that you need to, whether you're in a situation like health-wise like we are, or just in your normal, like the army that you have behind you.
Beautifully said. Glenna's in our live chat says, I'm sending positive vibes to these brave young women, giving them strength on their journey moving forward. Cortney Drover, Connie, Claeys, thank you so much for making time for us. And thanks for helping us focus on truly what is important today on World Cancer Day. I know a lot of people are remembering their loved ones that have fought, that are fighting. And we've got a ton of respect for the two of you. Thanks for doing this. Want to just thank those two for joining us. That's powerful stuff. Johnny was poking around on the website. I feel maybe, I don't know, stupid. We learn something every single day. This is breastcancerprogress.ca. They've got different stories of different survivors. Check this out. This is on the website. Brad Whitelaw telling his story. I went, why? I kind of did a bit of a double take, although rare. I'm just reading from the website, breastcancerprogress.ca. Male breast cancer is a significant health concern in Canada, accounting for approximately 1% of all breast cancer cases every year. And although the impact due to its rarity of a male breast cancer diagnosis can be life-altering, presenting unique challenges due to late detection and limited research. Guys wouldn't think you could get breast cancer.
No, I didn't think that either.
I appreciated the comment earlier in the show. Somebody saying that, I think it was Cherie, said, I'm going to go get checked. I'm going to do my self-check today. These are such good reminders. And I wanted to shout out as well in our live chat, folks are, and I know you noted this in the chat, we're going to make a donation to Breast Cancer Progress and to this campaign on today on World Cancer Day. But those of you donating, Les in memory of Bernice Landry, Goose in memory of his beloved Daryl McBride, who would have been 63 years old this week, and Tony, who's making a donation to breast cancer awareness in honor of her baby brother, who would have been 55 this year, and in honor of her dad. Tony says, missed and always on my heart. I'm thinking today of our beloved friend Carrie Claeys. She passed away just this past summer, a very difficult stretch for our family, and in particular for her amazing husband, Lyle, who stood by her side through the fight here in Canada and then down into the United States. They were doing absolutely everything they could. She is an absolute warrior, and ultimately cancer took her down in Arizona, and she will be forever missed. That's who I'm thinking of today, Carrie, and sending love to Lyle. Lyle was skating with us this weekend out at the Real Talk Pond Hockey Classic, a young guy who's navigating life now without his co-pilot, without his best friend, and I know that everybody's got their own story. That's who I'm thinking of today.
It's so fast that happened too. I mean, I met this woman. She came in the studio.
You were shocked when I told you, because
4 weeks later, I think you said she passed away. And just like you said, she came in, she lit up the room. Yeah. Did not seem like she was battling a life-threatening illness, was happy, was talkative, and then, just weeks later, that light goes out. It's really sad.
I like go back, and everybody grieves in their own way and does their own things. I go back and I just read like our text history between us, and just her positive attitude throughout, and then the texts would get, and you know how it is with somebody that's number one, beloved by many, and I know this is probably the same for many of you. RH is back here in the super chat donating $20 in memory of Morris Harding, a World War II vet who died of lung cancer in 1989. We'll be sure to direct that donation, and Real Talk will match these donations to breast cancer today on World Cancer Day. But you look back, and then the texts would get fewer and more far between, just because of as the sisters were just describing as well, the exhaustive nature of these treatments and the toll that it takes. The disease itself takes a toll, and then the treatment can take such a toll. And so I guess the point of me saying all this right now is if this interview is reaching you and we're describing your situation right now, you got this, you're loved, you're supported, and we hope that that's the sense that you take from this show as people gather in community and honestly are sharing some of their own personal stories. Don't forget, again, you can check out the website, breastcancerprogress.ca. And if you have a story you'd like to share with us, we'd love to hear it. talk@ryanjesperson.com. We learn more every single episode from Real Talkers than we could expect. I didn't know Pure Later was owned by Canada Post. You learn something every single day, and we're sure grateful for that. Before we do anything else, I want to remind you that right now, as we speak, Edmonton Opera is presenting Bluebeard's Castle at the Jubilee Auditorium. This is an absolute showstopper. This is one you don't want to miss, and quite frankly, my friends, you're running out of time. You got a presentation tonight. If it's not sold out, you can check out the tickets at edmontonopera.com, and then you've got the 6th and the 7th. So you got Thursday and Friday to check this production out, Judith's Journey Through Bluebeard's Doors, a poignant exploration of dementia, identity, and the heart. This is a story that's guaranteed to resonate deeply with anybody who's been touched by memory loss. Don't miss Bluebeard's Castle tonight, Thursday and Friday at the Jubilee Auditorium. You can check on the status of tickets at edmontonopera.com. Also wanted to thank our friends at California Closets for the amazing contribution that they make to the show every single day, making this 7-platform live stream possible. We see you watching us on Facebook. We see you watching us on LinkedIn. We love those of you that are joining us on TikTok and Instagram and X and Mixlr and YouTube and all the platforms. Real Talk meets you where you're at. California Closets, custom closets and storage solutions for the entire home. I know what some of you are thinking. Real talk, straight up. Some of you are going, I can't afford California Closets. I don't know. I just can't swing it. I know I'd love to put their team to work. I'd love to see what their designers can come up with, but I don't have $1 million. Well, California Closets is custom designed to fit your space and your budget. Go to their website, californiaclosets.ca, and you can check out the different levels. Level 1, practical simplicity, right? This is budget friendly, still the quality you'd expect. Level 2, they've got some expanded features. Level 3, they've got some elevated details. And level 4 is luxury refined. I think Stuart Skinner has level 4. I think that's what the Oilers goaltender has. That looks like level 4, the commercials I've seen during the Oilers games. You can request your free consultation today by visiting californiaclosets.ca. Well, how's that for a reality check? We've had the markets covered. We've got some business advice today. We're obviously going to be keeping an eye on what happens, this development between Canada and the United States as the existing government here in Canada, tries to navigate these choppy waters with the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Coming up on the next episode of Real Talk, we're going to follow up on all the talk around X and Elon Musk and the new tech oligarchs, the future of privacy, whether or not you should actually leave a social platform. We're going to talk to experts in disinformation and tech, plus we'll be taking your questions. Email it in ahead of time to talk@ryanjesperson.com. In the meantime, thanks for liking and sharing this episode. Thanks for subscribing. We'll talk to you soon.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jesperson, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lawrence Derlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton. Real Talk's editorial board is Supriya Dwivedi, Ahmed Ali, Brandy Morin, Ann Castleman, Corey Hogan, Harman Kandola, Catherine O'Neill, and Chris Henderson. Member Emerita, Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjesperson.com.